and I'm 35 years old. So I started training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu probably about a year and a half ago. And for me, the main motivation for starting Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was just because of how beautiful the sport is. It's one of the only sports where you can execute a technique without actually punching your opponent. It's also one of the few sports where you can take part, go back to work on a Monday, and you look fine. No one is gonna look at you with a bruised face, black eyes, and what have you, cuts all over your face. You're not gonna have that with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and so that attracted me to the sport. It's just the beauty of executing techniques is what attracted me to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The fact that you don't use kicks, punches, or anything, and you're still going to be able to defeat an opponent by simply using grappling techniques, is what attracted me to it. So I started training in June 2007. Initially, I was going maybe 3 or 4 times a week, and that was pretty good. And maybe 6 months into the journey, I entered my first competition, and in my view, that was the worst thing I ever did. So I'll tell you why. So I entered a competition, and the competition was held in my local gym. So I got smashed. Okay, I won my first fight. The second fight was a draw, so I did not progress into. But then my opponent won because he had more of an advantage. It was a submission only tournament. So the first one I won, the second one was a draw. However, my opponent tried a few more submissions than I did, so he went through. That taught me what to expect during competitions. So that was my sort of month 6 insight into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so I kept training, going 3 or 4 times a week until January 2018. So I went for about 7 months, and I had to stop training because I was studying at the time. I was doing my master's, so my exams were coming up, so I had to stop and focus on my exams. So I stopped training completely. But during the times when I was tired from studying, I just watch a lot of YouTube Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu videos. And during that time that I stopped training, something curious also happened, something very unique. I started thinking about the moves I do when I roll. So for example, I'll think about, hey, if I am in close guard, as opposed to just slamming on the triangle, what else can I do to get the triangle? Um, in the same way, I started thinking about, as opposed to just slamming on the Kimura from close guard, what else can I do before I get the Kimura from close guard? And I started realizing that there's a lot of things that I can do that could potentially even get me a submission than simply going for the Kimura, as an example. And so that insight changed my perspective on Jiu-Jitsu. So it made me realize that, okay, I need to learn more and look for different sources which can help me understand this thing that I thought I had stumbled upon. And so, scanning through YouTube, digging through YouTube, I came across the legendary Roy Dean. After watching a few of his videos, I became hooked. I bought his collection, his full collection. Initially, I bought his blue belt requirements. I went through that within a night, and I loved it so much that I bought the full collection. And yeah, the full collection is, I think, $299, $2, so $299 or $399, which is amazing. You get every single seminar, every single instructional, every single video that Roy Dean has released. And so I got one of those, and it's been amazing for me. Another website which I came across during my time off was a website called bjjconcepts.net. It's run by Rob Benaki, and he is pretty awesome. Rob Benaki, he shows his method of teaching is almost like scientific jiu-jitsu. He teaches very fundamental concepts around Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I found that really useful. That's just the way I learn as a person. But I would say if you really want to understand the fundamental concepts of Brazilian jiu-jitsu in every single position, go onto Rob's website, and you would find it insanely useful. Another website I used during that time off was harrisinternational.com. Now, Harris International is run by um, Roy Harris. Roy Harris is or was the trainer of Roy Dean, so he gave Roy Dean his black belt. Now, Roy Harris's website is not like the most appealing or um, UX based or UX amazing website. Yeah, so the user experience is not that amazing, but it does the job. Um, the techniques you learn from his website are very old school, and you don't learn it from a lot of places. So if you go onto his website, you're going to find a lot of fundamental but secret techniques that you can use in your game. One of his techniques I learned, I use all the time, and to defend arm bars. And when I use it, people just completely get stumped. So I love it. Um, and lastly, one source I used, which got me really, really focused on my progression, was um, a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu curriculum from a guy named Kyle Short from Flux MMA. Now I'm gonna post the link on this video so you can check out Kyle's channel. Now in that curriculum there were hundreds of moves, but what I found particularly useful from that curriculum is that it had things you had to know from every single position. So for example, close guard, if you're at the bottom, there were multiple attacks you had to know as a white belt to progress to blue belt. If you were in close guard top, there were multiple escapes you had to know, or passes you had to know to pass the person's close guard, the person who's at the bottom. And also, if you're at the bottom again, there were multiple sweeps that you had to know to transition to whatever position you want from close guard. And the curriculum had multiple of attacks, passes, escapes from every single position. And for me, when I stumbled on that, that completely changed my game. And that completely changed the way I learned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. For the first time, it made me completely focused. It gave me something to work towards. So every single week, I'll take one particular um, technique. So if it's, I'll take one particular position, and I'll get onto YouTube, look for videos that teach the various techniques from that position, and I will practice with my grappling dummy. So one thing I did not say is I have a grappling dummy at home. So when I watch these videos, I'll practice on my grappling dummy and yeah, just fine tune the techniques I was learning, and that I found helped me quite a lot. So between February and April 2008, I did not go to class because of my exams. However, I watched a lot of YouTube videos and I also trained with my grappling dummy at home. Now, after April 2008, I went back because I had finished my exams, so I started training again. Now, when I started training again, I noticed a huge improvement in my game. Now, if you remember, I had a curriculum, a white to blue belt curriculum, which I was following, or a white to blue belt program, which I was following. So my game had matured a bit. I knew what to do from almost every position, and I had practiced on my grappling dummy enough. And some had worked, some moves had worked, so I was quite confident in like the things that had worked for me. Um, and suddenly I was smashing some of the guys who used to give me problems as white belts, who were still white belts, but had like 4 tags, and I was still on like 1 tag. Um, Not that the tag system mattered. I would have probably had like 3 tags or something, but never mind. Yeah, so I was smashing some of the guys who were on 4 tags. I gave some blue belts problems. I got the occasional tap from some blue belts, and I also got tapped from blue belts. So by December 2018, I had entered about 2 competitions, won gold in all the competitions I took part in, which I'll share the pictures as well. And another interesting thing happened around December time. So towards December, I started using more combinations. So combinations are when you use multiple techniques together. So for example, if you're in close guard and you want to go for a kimura, you don't go for the kimura immediately. You go for a hip bump. If the hip bump fails, then you go for your kimura. Or again, if you're in open guard, you slap on a guillotine. If your opponent is pushing into your chest, you slap on a guillotine. They lift up their hand to try and defend. You go for a kimura. So that's an example, or those are examples of combinations. So I started using quite a lot of combinations towards December, and in January, my game again developed a bit more. I started using combinations not just for attacks, but also for defense and also for escapes. So if I want to escape a particular way, I'll try something. If the person reacts a certain way, I'll change and then try a different escape. So the same thing happened with guard passing. For example, if I'm in open guard with somebody, I'm standing on the top, someone is on the bottom playing open guard. Let's say I want to go for a Torianda pass. I'll go for the Torianda pass, and then if they make a mistake, I'll use a knee cut pass as an example. But I started using these combinations based on what became available. It's not like I planned these combinations. It was just a case of I knew enough of my basic techniques that I could add them together, and that's all that I started doing. And funny enough, Roy Dean emphasizes combinations a lot for his higher belts. So I thought, hey, if Roy Dean has been advising his students to use combinations at the higher levels, so from blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, he emphasizes combinations quite a lot. I thought, hey, it's not going to do me any harm if I start learning combinations. So yeah, combinations, blue belts, changed my game. Another thing that happened in January this year, 2019, is I started wanting to express my techniques more. So by that I mean I started wanting to do the techniques much more correctly. In the past, like I said, I weigh 88 kilos, I'm 6'2". In the past, I would quite easily smash my way through people. If I was in someone's open guard and I was executing a knee cut pass, and they did not quite allow me to get an underhook, I would just force my way through that. Whereas around January, I realized that look, if I'm not getting the underhook, I can easily transition and do something else and pass the person's guard, um, and also not smash my way through. If someone is not allowing me to do a knee cut pass, I can transition and do something else. I could change and do something else. Again, expressing the technique came hand in hand with me wanting to use much more combinations, because if you do the techniques properly, it allows you to change the techniques a lot easier. Whereas if you're doing it in a crappy manner, you're not going to be able to change it efficiently. So yeah, efficient execution of techniques certainly helped me with using combinations. So in the week of January, in the last week of January, I got promoted to blue belt, um, and yeah, it was probably a very amazing feeling. When I first started jiu-jitsu, I did not think I'll get very far. I just started because I loved it. I loved what people were doing. But now my main goal is to become a black belt, and so I'll keep pushing it. Um, I got my promotion to blue belt at 1 year, 4 months. If you exclude the times I took off, those 3 months I stopped training to focus on my study. Or if you want to include those times I stopped training to focus on my study, then I got promoted 1 year, 7 months. So yeah, overall a year and a half average that it took me to get from white belt to blue belt. Um, and one last thing, I don't know what I did that finally got me my promotion. However, the two things which I am happy with are: one, the fact that I am expressing techniques better, I am executing techniques much better, and two, the fact that I'm using more combinations. Um, these two things I'm very happy about, and I know they're going to help me as I move from blue to purple and from purple to brown and brown to black. I hope you found the information I shared useful. Um, I hope you luck in your journey, and all the best. Thank you.